Alright, so this video is going to be a little video over Yellowjackets Season 2, Episode 4. I'll just get into it. I'm just going to go over some things I noticed. In the beginning, you can see that Ty's private investigator had investigated Van. You can see a picture of her, of Van's store, which is shown later at the end of the episode. And I've thought this before, but Jeff doesn't really seem to believe Shauna about the van. Although in season one, there's a lot of times whenever Jeff seems skeptical about stuff, and then later it's revealed that he actually believed her. So I don't know if that's going to be explored more. I did notice that Natalie in the 2021 timeline is wearing the same clothes for like 3 episodes now, which is pretty funny. And Misty assumes this part's in the beginning. It confused me because Misty assumes that because the Elijah Wood character knows that she likes musicals, he somehow knows about her being a Yellow Jacket. So somehow it's connected that Misty liking musicals is somehow a known biographical factoid about her time in the wilderness or something. I'm not really sure what the connection between her liking musicals and him knowing that she's a Yellow Jacket. It could be a plot hole. There could be deleted scenes that explain it. I don't really know. That part kind of confused me. And the part with Lottie and the psychiatrist, I didn't find that very realistic. Psychiatrists are generally always happy to up people's medication, perhaps a little bit too much in my experience, especially if they're struggling. And I don't think that a psychiatrist would encourage a patient to find meaning or investigate their psychoses too closely. It feels kind of weird that she encourages her psychosis in some ways. I also was kind of disgusted by Elijah Wood's dietary habits. Like he makes a little sandwich out of ham and eggs and syrup and mustard. It was mostly the mustard that disgusted me. I have to imagine that the mustard kind of clashes with the syrup. It's pretty fucking disgusting, in my opinion. He's a weirdo. But I mean, that could be explained by the construction accident that he went through. It does seem to explain how weird and eccentric he is. Like, possibly the brain damage he suffered has caused him to be a little bit weirder afterwards. He's very eccentric. The part where Callie talks about how her and Jay, the cop, sit around at the park and drink. It doesn't seem. You'd think that would be illegal for a cop to drink in public with a teenager. You'd also think that people would notice that Jay is a cop. People would know in this small town. Jeff at the beginning says it's a small town. You'd think that people would know that Jay is a cop. You'd also think that Jay plying a teenager with alcohol would jeopardize the case the police are building. It could be revealed that Jay is knowingly being inappropriate and he just wants to fuck Callie. Like he knows what he's doing is wrong and could jeopardize everything. It's unclear if his partner knows what he's doing and knows what he's up to. That would make more sense if he's kind of knowingly being illegal but just wants to fuck a teenager. I did think that Shauna leveling with Callie, telling her everything that's happened. I think that'll turn out to be a very bad idea. Callie is still a teenager. I think she's like 17 or 18. And there's no way she's going to keep that whole thing a secret. Teenagers are not known for keeping secrets, and people in general are not known for keeping secrets, especially when they're young. I did find Jeff's reaction to Shauna sharing that with Callie to be quite fitting. Anyone who is sane would respond to Shauna in that same way. It does seem to speak to how deranged Shauna is. I think one thing that's lost in this show is that Misty and Shauna are both like kind of cold-blooded murderers who both, kind of commit kind of premeditated murders. Especially Misty. Misty's a psychopath. I saw speculation online that Jeff doesn't know about Shauna being pregnant in the wilderness. I think that's bullshit. I think he kind of has to know, especially after reading her journals. I think people are kind of overthinking like little bits of that dialogue. I do think that the significance of the symbol that's so important to the show, being on all the trees that Van and Ty found, it'll be interesting to find out what the significance of that symbol being on the trees is, and why it seems to make a pattern. I do think the show seems to be kind of building up to Coach being killed or eaten by the girls. They did kind of build up the tension between him and the rest today, or in this episode. Um, the trailer for this week's episode shows Lottie descending a ladder. I assume that would be related to a secret bunker or a tunnel network, which would explain how Javi has been surviving, because he would have somehow found the bunker or underground tunnel. Um, One thing I noticed about Lottie's vision is that Van is shown as having no scars, so it could be a depiction of them before they leave for the wilderness. Whenever they find the moose in the ice, you would think that whenever they're hitting the ice around the moose, that the ice would start to crack, and that all their weight on the ice would crack, because they don't seem to hit the ice that much. They break through the ice, and you'd think that the ice would start to crack. Later in the episode, it's unclear if Lottie is hallucinating the Queen of Hearts card, if it's just a vision, or if somebody stuck that in her little thing for what they're grateful for. It's notable that the Queen of Hearts' eyes have been blacked out, which reminds me of the man with no eyes that Ty hallucinates. That's been built up so much with Ty. Another thing I noticed is everyone in the 90s wilderness timeline keeps cutting themselves with knives. You would think that would almost surely cause at least some infections. They're not shown to have any anti-infection stuff, anything to clean wounds. The fact that they spot Javi near the tree stump in the melted snow, which has been shown a few times this episode or this season, and Lottie is shown as having a vision of it. I think that's going to be key to understanding how he survived. There has to be some type of underground something going on. At the end of the episode, Javi doesn't hug Travis back, and he generally seems like he's in shock. You would think he would be effusive and relieved at being saved. He could still be scarred by the tripping on mushrooms and being chased through the woods. I was curious about what kind of business Van runs. It has something to do with movies and TV, which is pretty obvious. The word streaming is in the business name, but it's not clear exactly what kind of business it is. One thing I noticed that's interesting is that Callie goes from dating a boy who's super immature and just kind of a little man-child, and then she goes to dating an older man who is seemingly much more mature. You'd think that would be the main attraction for Jay the cop, is that he's a lot more mature. One thing I found funny is at the end, Misty does that hip hip hooray for Lottie thing, and that is just so cheesy and cringe, and it's also funny how all the girls ignored her and shut her down immediately. I do find younger Misty to be just generally too cheesy and cringe for me. It causes me physical pain. I much prefer her older self. So here's some predictions for the next few episodes for the rest of the season. From the teaser for next week, it looks like there's going to be a blizzard. I'm predicting that will make their food situation much worse. I didn't see anything about Javi in the teaser for next week, which I found surprising. Maybe they're trying to hold their cards close to the vest. I don't know. I could see him being in such shock, and he never talks, so I could see it being a while before he reveals how he survived. I did maybe think that the girls will have to retreat into some kind of underground bunker or tunnel to get out of the blizzard. It's not clear if they're still using the cabin at the end of their time in the wilderness, and they may have to give up on the cabin for some reason. I have noticed that Shauna hasn't started showing her pregnancy yet. And we know that her baby doesn't survive the wilderness, but we don't know what happens to it. I think that they're going to eventually eat the baby. Shauna and Jeff, I think we'll find out about Callie and Jay. That's kind of teased in the episode teaser. I think they may even try to confront Jay, which may kind of mess with the police's investigation and stuff. I do think that this is pretty obvious if you think about it, but I think Javi's survival will be linked to the tree stump and the melting snow. The melting snow implies at the very least geothermal activity, and at the most some type of underground structure. Lottie does have that repeating vision of going underground. She had a vision of that in episode 3, and then she has a vision of it in episode 4. Um, yeah, like and subscribe. I did have a little bit more to add. It does seem kind of unbelievable that Natalie sticks with the cult for so long. You'd think that that would have to be explained. I mean, she is shown as being lost and suicidal. Maybe she just likes the community, but I wish that they would explain why she stays with the cult. It's kind of interesting to think about why she would stay with Lottie and the cult when she obviously can leave at any time. I did also find her interest in the woman that she stabs to be interesting. It's an interesting character trait that she cares about that woman. Uh, Adult Natalie isn't shown as being very caring and stuff, so it's a nice little character trait that she seems to be investing her time with that woman. Like and subscribe.